when you really, really need to get up to do all the things, but somebody is very, very comfy. And I could live with it, but my book is over there on the table, and I'm stuck here. Well, maybe it's time to read, sort of, if I can get my book. Hey y'all, welcome to the family that reads a lot. We've been here, we've been reading some, maybe not a lot. It's the very last stretch of our summer, so I really haven't pushed the kids to read as much. I haven't been reading as much. We've had a lot of activities, a lot going on, vacations, summer camps, all of the things. So their reading is slowed down substantially. Now, next week, we go back to school. We go back to a normal schedule. We go back to car rides, going places, which is where they do a ton of their reading. We go back to sitting during activities for other siblings, stuff like that. So their reading is going to pick back up again, mine as well, because same thing, obviously don't read while I drive. We don't do that. But sitting and waiting on them to get out of classes and things like this. So these are kind of the last wrap up of what we've been reading this summer. So jumping into it, these are all the kids' books. So I'll start it like always. 11-year-old boy, 8-year-old girl. Both, at this point, I would call them solid middle grades readers. She does read some upper elementary, and some of what I have here today, I would consider upper elementary, and that's fine. She loves fun books still, and it's nice sometimes to be able to pick up a book, zoom through it in a day or two, and call it good, instead of a book that you're reading for a long period of time at those younger ages. So I do try and mix it up for her. If she reads a really long book, then I try and say, hey, try this simple, easy book, because it keeps her feeling accomplished in her reading, if that makes any sense. Okay, so first one we're going to start with, this is actually a book that I read. This is The Trail by Meika Hashimoto. If you remember when I did the haul with this book in it, I thought that this was an adult book. I had looked it up online a year or so ago, looking for outdoorsy, hiking style stories. So at that time, that was really what I was into, and I really enjoy these stories. But this is actually a middle grades book, and I came across it one day looking through the middle grade section and was like, wait a minute, that's the book that I was gonna read. So anyway, grabbed it, read it. I really enjoyed it. It's been a minute since I read it, so I did try and give myself a few notes. So as much as this is a story of hiking, this is a story of grief. The boy in this book loses his best friend, and that's very much the underlying tale of this story. It doesn't make it a bad story. It's just needing to know that going in. I don't think on the synopsis it necessarily told you that. And that can be a really heavy subject for a middle grader. For if they haven't dealt with losing anybody close to them, that can be hard. And if they have, that can be even harder. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. I do think there's parts of this book that they overdo a little bit. It constantly talks about this kid eating Snickers. Let's not, okay? We are part of a youth group that's very into hiking, camping, all the things. And it is very much a discussion of nutrition when you're doing these kind of activities. I get that this is trying to show his struggles, and it does show him struggling trying to live off a Snickers bar, but it's kind of like he goes back to it again later, and it's like, really? Like, we couldn't have done anything better. And I guess it bugs me sometimes when they don't expect a little bit more out of the characters, like some common sense. Like, I feel like most kids have the common sense to know, hey, I'm gonna go try and hike a trail for weeks. I'm not gonna take Snickers bars as my main nutrition. But anyway, that just kind of bugged me, but maybe that's just an adult trying to read a middle grades book. There's a dog in the story. The dog substantially helps the story as you get on, because I was starting to kind of get frustrated with some of the things the kid was doing, and the dog helps carry the story along. There is a little bit of language in here. So at one point, one of the kids says, "Screw you," and some stuff like that. So definitely wouldn't consider this a young middle grades book. I will probably let my son read this, as he's a very discerning reader and understands, like, just because you read it doesn't mean you say it. Stuff like that. Would not recommend this to my daughter at this point as an early middle grade reader. So I think definitely an higher level middle grade reader. It's a good story. It does show perseverance. It does show some kids need a story of grief and need to see someone get through that for their own personal situations. So it has some really good qualities. It's just, I would not give it to a early middle grade reader. Okay, so everything else is stuff that they've read that I have not read, so I have notes from them on it. So this one was picked up by my daughter at a used bookstore because it is called The Cats of Tanglewood Forest, and she loves cats. This is by Charles de Lint. I'm realizing that her picking up books because it says cats on it may not be the best plan. We've had some books that have come into question that had cats in the title or on the front page. Like, if you look at this front cover of this, it looks so sweet. It's a girl in the forest surrounded by cats. Like, it seems like a simple, sweet story. I don't know what, and that's the other thing about used bookstores. They don't necessarily categorize by middle grade, upper elementary, all of that. So I don't actually know what grade this is meant for. I'm gonna say middle grades because of the language and writing in it. Not necessarily bad language, but just like vocabulary. My daughter gave this 4.25 stars is what she said. She said that the pictures are a little weird, and I don't deny that. Like, you've got this picture who I think is supposed to be of like a grandmother or something. It's a little weird. It's dark. There's a few others in here that are like that they're kind of dark and a little creepy looking. So those she didn't love. Like, she was excited that it had colored illustrations and all of that in it, but some of them were a little odd. So she said that the pictures are a little weird, that the book gets sad because there's a death in it. And I think at the end it kind of works itself out. I don't want to give too much information, but it's heavy in spots. And I don't think she was expecting that out of a book that she was really expecting to be more about the cats. And I don't think the cats ended up playing a very big role in the book. Like, I say that. They played an important role, but it wasn't just about cats, I guess. So at any rate, she said the vocabulary was challenging, that sometimes she did have to come to me and ask about a word or think about the sentence, stuff like that. But so overall, it was an okay book. I don't know that she'll go back and read this one. Like I said, it wasn't one of her favorites. So here's one that is in one of her current favorites, is the Whatever After series. This one is Cold and Ice by Sarah Mlynowski. I don't know if they're all by the same author. I know there's a bunch of books in this series, and they're basically stories of the princesses of like fairy tales. So like back here, there's different ones. Fairest of All, I think that's maybe Snow White. If the Shoe Fits is obviously Cinderella. Sink or Swim is Little Mermaid. So they're fairy tale retellings in a different way. They're not exactly by the story and all that. She grabbed this one. She gave this one a 5 stars. She said that it is the story of the Snow Queen. So she had thought that this was going to be a lot like Frozen, but that it's actually not like Frozen because the Snow Queen is bad. So she thoroughly enjoyed this book. She's going through this series, a combination of reading the books that she finds and grabbing them on audiobook. but is thoroughly enjoying this series. She said that it's a lot of fun. The stories are interesting. I think it's considered upper elementary, but it reads closer to a middle grade than it does like a super simple elementary book. So this is kind of one of those in-betweeners that she's really, really enjoying. This is one from my son, A Dog Like Daisy by Kristin Odell Tubb. So this is another war dog story. He gave this one 5 stars. He did say to put it out there, like it's nothing negative against him reading the book, but he wanted people to know it's a story of PTSD. And that can be a very heavy subject, and he understands that, so he just wanted to put that out there. Basically, this dog, it's told from the dog's perspective. The dog is trying to become a PTSD therapy dog, is how this basically works. So, like I said, I didn't read this one. I don't know a ton about it. This is right up his alley with, you know, war dogs, helper dogs, stuff like that. He said it was a really good story. He really enjoyed it. He just wanted to put that out there, that PTSD is the backstory. Last one. This is dog tags. Do you see a theme here? War dogs. He's read a lot of war dog stories this summer. This series, this is number 3. He's got one more left, I think, in this series. So this is by C. Alexander London. He rated this one 4 stars. And no, that's a tough rating for him. Remember, he's my 5-star kid. But he said that to warn people there's an animal death in this one, which from that, it's kind of a spoiler. You can probably figure a lot of it out. But a lot of people really don't like those books, and I do not either. Like, I am not an old yeller person, y'all. Stories where the animal dies or gets sick or anything like that is not my thing. It tears me up. So I think it had the same situation for him. This is during World War II. It's basically a German dog left behind by the Nazis, who then is trained to help rescue prisoners from Nazi camps or whatever. He enjoyed the story, but he said this one was a tough read. So, all in all, they've read some good books lately. Gonna have a lot more what we've been reading stuff coming up. Like I said, it's the end of summer. We're kind of switching gears, and so we'll see exactly how all that looks in video form. Obviously, I just started this summer, so don't know how that's going to change. But we've come across some really good books. So we've been reading a lot. If you like what you've seen here, give me a like, subscribe. You know, come back and see us, because I'm going to still be reading through a ton of books. Thanks.